He crashed through the clock at the first chime of midnight. Second chime, he was falling to the street below. Third chime, he hit the ground face up. Shell cracked and soaked in blood flowing from underneath him. By the fourth chime, Mr. B was dead. We all got up and looked at the mess below. It was a gruesome sight. I guess that ends it, Crystal said as she returned the gun to me. Yeah, I said, but there's one thing that remains unanswered. I ran to the elevator, finally using it now, in hopes of getting to the Phantom and questioning its presence before its death. I made it to the first floor, and there it was, lying weakly on the first step, waiting for death. I silently walked over to the figure and took a good look at it. The hero that could have been was now near being dead. I reached my hand and touched its blank face. It felt like rubber. It was rubber. A rubber mask. I quickly grabbed it, ripping it right off, and soon became horrified at the sight of who it was. She explained in her final breath. When I found out he killed him, I had to take revenge on B for what he did, killing my husband, Mario. With those last words, Zelda died in front of me. Before she gave into death, she closed her eyes and let out a smile of hope, a smile of happiness, a smile knowing all was well and her spouse's death was vengeance. Don't you mean avenged? And it was a smile that stayed on even after her death. The police came in and viewed the aftermath. As the Mortician took the dead three, we told them our story and went on our way back to my place. Well, now our place. All this time, that greedy monster was behind it. I'm glad to see you solved it, said Crystal as we walked back to the room. But how'd you figure it out? Mr. B has a side business with drugs on every continent. He's also the only one to have ownership of the Infernal Flower, I said. A rare type of plant that can be used as a strong addiction to create drug liquor, continued Fox. When you mentioned about it, that's when it all came together. He was trying to make a fool out of me and Sam here. But it all backfired, I added, because Big W chose a random girl instead of planning it out. Either way, we're stuck with you. After all, Fox said, you're a nice kid and would make a great addition to the investigation team. That's exactly what I had in mind, she said, but there's another reason why I should be with you two. What's that? We asked. Well, I wanted to tell you this, but I didn't want to shock you both. Come on, I said. How bad could it be? Okay, but on that night, after the wedding, we went to my place, and instead of sleeping like I told you to, I'm assuming they had sex. Wild, passionate, drunken sex. And I bet she's preggers. Okay, here's the epilogue. And that's how he met your mother. Wow, what an interesting story to tell your children. I finished saying to my two boys, Marcus in his bed, 10 years old, and his fur was as blue as his mother. Max was also in his separate cot, 10 years old, and his fur the same color as his other dad, who was still my partner to this very day. Okay. That was an interesting story, said Marcus, but there's one thing that bugs us. When you had us, did you, Fox, or Mom give up your jobs? Asked Max. I answered, there will always be crimes to bust. In fact, now and then we take shifts watching over you. Next week I have to help Fox with a situation we are having. We're getting close to capturing the pink vacuum and keeping him behind bars, once and for all this time. Wow, Kirby's actually a bad guy in the story? Very interesting. Will you tell us about him? Asked Marcus. Perhaps, but right now it's time for you to sleep. There is plenty of story to go around tomorrow. Despite a sigh of disappointment from them, they laid back, closed their eyes, and went to sleep. I got up from my chair, turned out the lights, and closed the door silently. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is Marcus really my son, or is he Max's? Good question. I'm still trying to figure out if you're supposed to be a human or not. Or perhaps either boys belong to me or actually have Fox's DNA in them. Or is it half and half? I don't think that's possible. Take my advice. Some mysteries are best left unsolved. And that's the end. You want to know what? This story was actually pretty decent. Had a few grammar mistakes here and there, was kind of inconsistent at times, but it was pretty good. It was good. Very good, actually. How many reviews did this story get? Oh, jeez. Wow, the story has only gotten one review. I'm quite surprised. I wonder who it's from. Okay, Todd666 wrote, interesting name. The story was excellent. My advice, though, is to post separate chapters in the future. Great job. Yeah, I agree with him or her or whatever it is. I'm assuming it's a Sweeney Todd fan, seeing they have a picture of Mrs. Lovett, but... So, you know what? This story was actually pretty good. Pretty good. Very good, actually. I can't believe I'm saying this. I actually read a good fanfic. I actually read a good fanfic. Oh my god, I read a good fanfic. I feel so happy. Ain't I a stinker? Happy feeling gone now. Well, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen, and I'm gonna hunt down that person who wrote that god-awful fanfic. Hehehe.